All right, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? How is it going? I am istherenoonelse, and in today's video, we are going to read and react to this article from GameRant.com that I posted on my community board. I'll provide a link in the description if you guys want to check this out and read it for yourself, but I wanted to go through it, read it, provide my thoughts, my opinions, and all those other sorts of fun things. So let's dive into it. It starts off, the Elder Scrolls Online players are offended by the free pet following a disastrous firesong launch. Players are outraged by the tone-deaf apologies ZeniMax issued following an extremely buggy launch of the Elder Scrolls Online's Firesong DLC. The Elder Scrolls Online ended its Legacy of the Breton storyline with a very underwhelming and extremely buggy Firesong finale, with many players frustrated by the reskinned pet they received as compensation. Work on the Elder Scrolls Online began when Oblivion was still in development, and the engine that the game was built on has been pushed well past its limits. When Firesong launched on November 1st for PC, it caused severe performance issues for a vast majority of its players, and the myriad of bugs it came with made the experience unplayable. It's no secret that players have been unhappy with the Elder Scrolls Online story for quite a long while, but their dissatisfaction runs even deeper than that. With ZeniMax Online Studios assigned a new MMO project, many fans feel that the developer team is simply going through the motions. Updates seem to break the game just as much as they fix it, and each subsequent chapter feels smaller in scope. I agree with this. I agree. You look at this latest, the latest DLC, the High Isle DLC, we got a card game. You know, we were getting classes at one point. We were getting Sigic skill lines. We were getting mythics. And this last one was just a card game. And so it just, you know, I don't know. I don't know what happened this year. I don't know why it went this way, but yeah, it looks like I agree with this. And I've said similar quite a few times on my channel where I feel it just feels like they're treading water. Treading water is going through the motions, treading water, however you want to say it. It doesn't seem to me like a team with direction right now. As a means of soothing the audience's frustrations with the disastrous launch of Firesong, ZeniMax Online Studios offered a Guar pet to players with an apology and a promise to do things better in the future. To say that it was poorly received by fans of the Elder Scrolls Online would be an understatement. The community felt that the gesture was insulting when compared to the compensation that other MMOs gave their players, and that the promise was empty because increasingly buggy launches had become a worrisome pattern for the game in recent years. So here's the tweet from Elder Scrolls Online. For this week only, you can claim the free Guar pet, and the message from Rich Lambert. Basically, I posted on my last video, but he basically just said, hey, you know, we dropped the ball. We're giving out a Guar pet for the issues. And so they posted this on Reddit. And I've never played these games before, but I thought this was interesting. But yeah, so at Genshin Impact, they have what's called primos. And this note says that 1090 primos is the same as about 1500 ESO crowns. And so Genshin Impact apparently gives 100 primos after patching major bugs. They give 60 for each hour of downtime, and then they give 400 for each week update. For each week, the update was delayed due to the Shanghai lockdown, so there was 3 weeks in total. So they got roughly $20 worth of rewards when it got taken down. Final Fantasy XIV, they granted 2 weeks of game time to players for being unable to log in during the expansion launch. Lost Ark compensates players for unexpected downtime with 3 to 5 days of a sub, rare currencies, time-gated crafting materials, and additional entrance tickets into daily dungeons. And Elder Scrolls, here's a reskinned Guar pet after 2 years of buggy patches, one of our worst patches yet, and losing time on ESO Plus from an inability to progress with trifectas. And then the whole South Park, we're deeply sorry. That's good stuff. Yeah, I've said this a few different times, like in different things, but I feel like ESO's reward system in general is very light. You look at a lot of the rewards you get for doing just about anything in the game, it's pretty light. I've talked about how, you know, they have issues with testers not coming on the PTS anymore because of, you know, they don't really listen to feedback very well. And on top of that, when they don't listen to feedback, there's not much incentive for people to go and test things, and that leaves stuff kind of hidden and leads to buggier and buggier patches. And so I've talked about how providing bigger rewards in that regard would be better. It would be better for them to do those sorts of things. And yeah, I read that and I was like, really? You're going to give a Guar pet? And and for those of you guys that don't know, for those of you guys that haven't been in the game, I posted a video on this 2 weeks ago now. When Firesong first came out, everybody was facing crashing issues. Now, for some people, it was due to the new patch not working with add-ons, so you had to disable all the add-ons and it worked. Not for everybody, though. Some people are still crashing now. They're still suffering from crashing effects. The first couple of days of the Firesong DLC also, they messed with ground effects, and so Siege was unable to be destroyed. And so for the first 24 hours throughout Cyrodiil, you couldn't take anything unless the hammer was up, because every keep had Siege that couldn't be replaced. And so if Daggerfall Covenant takes a keep and they set up max level Siege to tear down walls, those walls stay up, because now yellow or red can't go and siege that keep because there's a maximum amount of siege there. So that was a pretty funny bug. There's also issues with block and dodge roll mechanics, and so those aren't acting properly. And yeah, overall, a patch where they were trying to be quiet. We've beaten a dead horse with update 34 and 35 about how bad they were in general, and so they're like, you know what? Too much change fatigue. Let's have a quiet patch. And they roll out one of the most broken patches, like mechanically broken patches that's probably ever existed. And so it's just like, even when they're trying to not ruffle feathers, they ruffle feathers because the patch isn't very good. So yeah, and it says here, numerous threads popped up on the official subreddit for the Elder Scrolls Online, but the message from its players has been loud and clear. A tone-deaf apology wasn't going to allay their fears. Many argue that they would rather enjoy a slower content release schedule if it meant the developers had the time to properly implement new content and changes to the game. These players, the Elder Scrolls Online, had no shortage of content, but it was starting to display a lack of stability and direction. I agree. I completely agree. Before I say this, before I provide my point of view and my tinfoil hat theory here, I don't know who makes the calls here, guys. And so I don't know if it's the lead director. I don't know if it's somebody above him. I don't know if it's the higher up brass at Bethesda or ZeniMax or even Microsoft. I don't know who's making these calls for these choices for this game. And so I'm going to just say, I don't know in that regard. But what I will say is this last year has been the worst ESO year since I've been playing, as far as content, as far as not listening to the community, as far as bad rolling out of ideas that people don't like. And it all kind of coincides around the same time that they, got rid of the class rep system. And, I understand that they weren't using the class rep system, but it is kind of funny to me that they officially get rid of it, and then their most tone deaf effects are immediately afterwards. And it's just, I don't know. Funny is not the right word. It's ironic, I guess. I'm a big fan of irony. And so, yeah. But you look at these changes, and I've talked about it in other videos as well, about this development team's direction, their direction in the game. And, they don't have, I don't think they have a set plan. I don't think they know what they want to do, how they want this game to be. I think they just throw stuff at a wall. I think they're kind of, as far as direction goes, they're pretty much rudderless. Like, they're out in the ocean trying to figure stuff out, and they're just making changes here and there. And and I'm not just going to say that without providing like what I'm talking about. But you look at CP 1.0 to 2.0, right? They went through and they revamped the entire champion point system. They overhauled it. They came out with a new one, and they basically said that the old champion point system was running a bunch of effects. It was running a bunch of checks in the background in fights, and it was creating a laggy environment in open world PvP where all these characters were running checks to see if all these different status effects or passives should be firing off. And so they streamlined the champion point system to make it more, you just have these buffs all the time instead of having it proc off a specific effect, which makes sense. You're trying to improve performance. CP 2.0 made a lot of sense. I feel like they did a pretty good job overall with CP 2.0, so I'm not saying anything bad in that regard. But then they introduced a set like Mara's Balm. And Mara's Balm We've talked about it a lot on this channel, but it is a set that functions and procs heals off of status effects being applied to you and reapplied, or status effects dropping off. And so this very powerful set is being run by a lot of people, and every time you're taking damage, it's running checks like, hey, do you have the burning status effect on you? Is it going away? Are you concussed? Is it going away? Should we be healing you? Do you just got hit with poison injection? Are you poisoned as well? How much should we be healing for you every single second? And it's running these checks on all incoming damage. And that's just one person. And so I am not a developer, but if CP 1.0 was a problem, and I think most people, like, if that's what they say it was, that's fine. Why would you introduce a set that's extremely powerful where a lot of people are running it and it's doing similar things? I personally have noticed that performance started to drop off the minute Mara's Balm started getting more and more popular. And I'm not saying that it's a perfect apples to apples comparison. Obviously, there have been performance issues before, and performance seems to be getting worse and worse. But it's no surprise to me that right now the performance now is worse than what it was 6 months ago, partially due to a set running checks nonstop in the background, and a lot of people in Cyrodiil running this specific set. And so that's just one that doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand why you would do that. The other one that doesn't make sense to me, another example of one that doesn't make sense to me, is their entire crit changes. You look at if you remember, it was a year ago or a little over a year ago now, they went through and they reduced crit chance and they reduced crit modifiers. They put a cap on them because they didn't want crit to be the lead damage dealer in PvE. They wanted other stats to be... They wanted to make other things more competitive, because basically crit chance and crit modifiers were the way to stack the most damage, and everybody was doing that in a trial experience. And so they got rid of that, and they gutted it quite a bit. Like, if you look at my Necromancer in PvP, I'm running around with like 12 to 15% crit chance, unbuffed, before major or anything like that. And so it's just really, really low crit chance. But they then introduce a bunch of sets that have higher crit chance and higher crit modifiers. And it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, you're just shuffling, you're just shuffling the deck. Like, instead of having crit chance and crit modifiers built into the character, you now have it built into sets, and to a point to where crit modifiers are extremely powerful in PvP right now, which they should be. I'm not complaining that they're not. It's just like they took something away so that they could introduce sets for it. That's what it feels like. And so I don't know. I don't know. Like that's just something that just kind of blows my mind, that this is an issue. It needs to be adjusted, but now we'll just roll out a bunch of sets. Like the last 2 patches have all been crit modifier and crit damage sets. And it's like, at some point we just don't need more sets. We just don't need more sets. We can stop having so many sets. We can just balance the ones that we have. And so that's kind of my perspective on those things. The last one that I want to bring up is, the proc set discussion that we've had multiple times. Long base story, Markarth proc sets were broken. They were broken for like 9 months. Zenimax comes out and they say, we hear you that proc sets are broken. We're going to adjust them. So they removed proc sets from PvP for 6 months, 2 patches, if I remember correctly. So no proc PvP for 6 months, because they needed to address these. They needed to change them. So they changed how they scaled, and they had them work off weapon and spell damage. So you couldn't just have high health and proc sets. Still can, but I mean, they at least made the effort, and a lot of them got adjusted. And then a patch after they made all those fixes, they introduced Dark Convergence, Plague Break, and Hrothgar. And arguably those 3 are the most broken proc sets that have ever existed. And so when I see these things, I don't see a team with a direction like, hey, we made a mistake with proc sets. The community didn't like them. We're going to be careful with proc sets in the future. They're not looking at, hey, CP 1.0 was causing problems with our server. We have old servers. We can't have these sets running checks. They did. I don't think that they would run a set like Mara's Balm. These sorts of things. And so to me, I just feel like they just are throwing things at a wall. And like I said, I don't know who's making these calls. I don't know who's making these decisions. They're bad. They're very, very bad. And yeah. That was quite a rant. Let's continue reading the article. If the rumors are true that ZeniMax Online Studios is working on a new MMO and has therefore diminished its focus on the Elder Scrolls Online, then its struggle to meet the same deadlines it once opposed would make a lot of sense. Perhaps the best move for the long-term health of the game would be to take a break from the annual format it established with the Elsewhere chapter and give Elder Scrolls Online a much-needed makeover. I agree with this. I don't know. You always want your game to be improving. You want your game to be improving on systems, coming out with new systems, making systems better. And I can't think, and I'm sure there's been some good that's come out in the last year, but like most of the changes have been bad. I feel like the game would have been better off outside of the hardware update in May, which was awesome, by the way, for PCNA. Outside of that, all the balance and performance changes, hybridization, sets, different things, we could have gone this entire year without it existing, and the game would have been better off. And so these changes are all bad. And I said it in the previous video, and I'm going to say it again. Just because ESO is in a bad spot doesn't mean that it's dying or dead. And I'm not going to, if you're this far in this video, I'm not going to clickbait you with ESO is dead. MMOs don't die unless, the team decides that they're dying. This game can have a resurgence. It is an Elder Scrolls Online. It's an Elder Scrolls game. It has a huge following, a huge cult following. They just need to implement good changes. They need to make the game fun. They need to make the game enjoyable. They need to listen to the community. They need to not do these things where they don't listen and then they provide the pet is just I don't know. Maybe it's too harsh to rag on them in this regard, but it's like, if you're just going to give out a pet, just don't give out anything. You know what I mean? It's like handing out 10 soul gems. The game is crashing nonstop. Here's a pet for you in game so that when you crash, it's the last thing you see before you disappear. I don't know. I don't understand. And so yeah, that's the end of the article. And yeah, I do agree that, yeah, my last thing I want to say is I'm not speaking for anybody else. I'm not telling you guys, what you should think or what you should believe or anything like this. But personally, for me, when a development team ignores their player base and they don't listen to them and they continue to bring out poor product after poor product, like EA, for instance, with their Madden games where they just have reskinned Madden every single year. There's a reason I don't buy EA games. It's because basically it's just corporate trying to make as much money as possible. And they do a good job making money. And so hats off to them for that. But they don't do a great job making games or making games that really are functionally good. And so if ZeniMax is working on a new MMO and they're coasting in this MMO, my question would be, why wouldn't they coast in the next one? Like every MMO has issues. Every patch isn't going to be great. I'm not gonna criticize the development team for, me not liking their artistic storyline for a certain DLC or whatever. It's just like, if you think it's good or you think it's bad, it's your opinion, right? We go through good and bad patches all the time in different games. Every single MMO goes through bad patches. And so my question is if you have a development team that coasts and they don't listen to the players and they don't acknowledge the changes, why wouldn't the next MMO suffer from the exact same issues that ESO is suffering from? Why wouldn't it? Because, outside of the game functionally working better, great, but you're still going to have the same issues with balance. You're going to have the same issue that you have where they don't listen to the community, that they're not providing updates, that they're not talking and working with the community on certain things. And yeah, you're going to be left in the same spot. And so from my point of view, I will not be playing this new MMO from them. Why would I? And so, yeah, everybody's different, but that's where I stand. I already do that with other video game brands and everything, and this would just be another one for me. So yeah, but that's gonna be the end of this video. We got pretty long into this. I kind of talked through some things for you guys and kind of explained some stuff. I don't want to do these videos. I don't like doing these videos talking about these things, but I do like this game. This is Elder Scrolls Online is my favorite game of all time. It is. It's my most played. I got the most hours out of it. I got the most enjoyment out of it. I made this YouTube channel because of this game, because I enjoyed this game so much. And so seeing it in a bad spot, I just want to talk about it, and I want to hopefully make effort to relay things to get it better. Like I want it to be heading in the right direction. I want people, some people are happy with this game, and they're going to let me know in the comment section. A lot of people are not. They're not happy with what's going on. They're not happy with the lack of communication. They're not happy with a lot of the things that I've brought up. And it would be nice if there were more people that disagreed with me on this video than agreed with me. That's all I'm trying to say. It'd be really nice if the vast majority of people thought I was wrong for doing a video like this, but that's not the way it is right now. It's just bad performance, bad patches, bad sets, bad balance, no communication. Over and over and over again, rinse and repeat. So yeah, I'm gonna step off my soapbox here. I obviously want to hear your guys' opinion. That's why I do these videos as well. I'd like to hear feedback from you guys. You let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Like to have those conversations in the comment section below. But yeah, take care, guys. Have a good one.